Right now, tell everybody who we're talking to.
I'm Debbie Russell. I'm the local chapter president for the ACLU of Texas.
You know, we've been following a lot of police brutality stories around the country, and in particular here in Texas. You've been knee-deep involved with one in Austin, Texas. Talk a little bit about that and the significance of the recent report that's made headline news here.
Well, Nathaniel Sanders was a young black man that was shot in the back of the head and in the shoulder by an officer here in Austin in questionable circumstances. After that event occurred...
This was in May?
Yeah, this was in May, and he died, and another gentleman was also shot, but went to the hospital, and he's fine. There have been several events from that have happened. Of course, the first thing is the APD conducts their internal investigation and internal affairs. Then the grand jury convenes, the district attorney brings on criminal charges, and they were unfortunately didn't find him guilty. They didn't convict him. But
you mean the officer?
The officer. Yeah, they didn't find evidence. They didn't have the evidence.
Is that unusual?
No, it's par for the course in this town. The DA typically doesn't even provide enough of the evidence in order for it to go forth. And then, of course, they're reliant to some degree on the internal affairs process to get some of that information for them to be able to use that, but that's going on at the same time, and it doesn't finish usually until after the grand jury convenes.
So the police are policing the police.
Essentially, and so the grand jury, the citizens that do convene and meet on it, simply aren't given enough information in order to make a determination. So
we have this situation in May. Nathaniel Sanders, if I remember correctly, was in his car asleep.
He was indeed.
Gets shot.
He was asleep.
You know, all hell breaks loose in the neighborhood. People are upset because they know something ain't right. And then, when everything's said and done, all the parties that are supposed to be pursuing justice find that everybody's innocent. You know, the district attorney don't toss all the evidence in.
Right.
Police do an investigation. They find out nothing was wrong, and everything's hunky-dory, and yet we have another black man who's been shot. And if I understand correctly, there's been a history of shootings almost every year for the past 7 years. Somebody has been shot under questionable.
For the past about 10 years, it's almost every June. We've had, with the exception of maybe 2 years, a young person of color, almost always not armed. In this case, they claimed he was armed. But what happened after the grand jury found him not guilty was the Citizen Review Panel met. That's our oversight system here in Austin, which doesn't typically have a lot of teeth and can't do much, but they did make a recommendation for an independent investigation, which they quickly turned around and hired a firm, and they just released their results yesterday. And so that was interesting. So
what did they say in this report?
The report, oddly enough, by most standards, we weren't. Some people weren't expecting it to be very thorough and to be unbiased. But this report, in fact, called the internal affairs investigation biased. They used that term. They used flawed. And
now, how did an independent report come to this conclusion, but a district attorney and police investigation not come to that report? Is something wrong with the people that are hired? Did the police have anything to do with the firm being hired?
You said it before, it's politics. Now, I suspect there might have been, from top levels, something to do with this firm being hired because of the pressures underneath them. Because if they have already seen enough evidence in which to fire this officer, then they're going to get a lot of heat from the rank and file, from the union. The firm that they hired has been doing a lot of work actually with LAPD and with their oversight system, and actually been fairly critical. This is a defense contractor firm. This is not something you expect to do such a thorough job. And in the report, it takes you step by step through the faults of each part of this process. It lays out what went wrong. So once we get all of that information available in this report, we'll be able to make that determination. But there's enough there to give some highlights.
Let me ask you this. You know, a lot of people get frustrated when they hear about these type of shootings. They don't see any sort of justice done. And usually the victims or the people who wind up dead are often criminalized even after they're buried.
Absolutely.
Even with the case of Nathaniel Sanders, they went and looked at all his records and tried to make it seem like
right.
it was something
wallet,
that
he had some pot in his system and some other drugs in his system. He must have been a bad boy and deserving it. And then even the driver of the car has gone through his own case now, and they tried to make him look bad. They said that there was a baggie in the car that had pot residue in it, and it took them a month to charge him with that baggie being his even.
Wow.
It was just, it was a complete stretch.
What should young people who are watching this, people who feel like maybe they shouldn't get involved with politics, is this a situation where they should be involved in politics? And if so, what sort of steps should they take to maybe change the system?
Well, oversight and getting involved with politics is somebody's own personal decision, but getting involved in the community that engages in the activities that oversee our police department, I think is very important. And in fact,
who oversees the police department? What buttons should we be pushing?
Well, we should be pushing our own buttons amongst us in the community. We should be organizing cop watching and engaging the East Side youth on knowing your rights trainings, and so they know what their legal rights are when they engage the police. Whether they like it or not, they come face to face with them all the time on the streets. And so if they are empowered with that knowledge, if they are empowered with a video camera, if they are empowered with the sense that they actually are who the police work for, then I think we can actually have a much better system, a much better relationship, and a lot less corruption.
Well, does the mayor or anybody on the city council, do they have any say-so about the police? Do we need to see the district attorney, any of the people that's running for office? Should we be looking at them carefully?
I think we should be looking at the district attorney's office very carefully because, like I said, this is a pattern that they refuse to bring an officer to indictment, and that there's been past cases where we can see that they did not enter certain evidence into the case, so that it couldn't happen. It's the police union politically that has all the power. They pull the purse strings of the council people, of the district attorneys.
The union controls the city council?
Believe it or not, as it does everywhere else, yes.
So then we need to really pay attention to the city council.
The city council, and especially to the city manager and the contract that he develops every 5 years with the union. That is a department, that is a process that we need to be much more intimately engaged in.
Do those contracts allow the police to run roughshod over people? Or?
Absolutely. They throw in a couple little gimme bones here and there, like our toothless civilian oversight system. But that's just, masking what the real power is, what the real power base is, what's really going on behind closed doors, and what deals are really being made.
Well, it seems like from New York with Shondell to Oakland with Oscar Grant, here in Texas with Nathaniel Sanders, it's the same game.
Yep.
Police unions and them pulling purse strings, and district attorneys afraid to go up against cops who do wrong.
Exactly. No matter how good our district attorney is here in Texas, in Austin and Travis County, they're supposed to be the most progressive in the state. We actually have a stronger guy now in Dallas County, Greg Watkins, and we have a lot of work to do on that front. A lot of people are used to paying attention to the legislative side of politics, but don't tend to engage in the judicial part of it. And I think there's a lot of power and a lot of corruption there with who's running for each bench in our localities and who's running for the district attorney's office. Is something we ought to pay a lot more attention to.